Alright, good evening everyone and welcome to Green White Checker TV. Tonight we have the Dark Horse Racing Area 51 series here tonight at the Daytona Road Course. So it's going to be 38 laps is the event this evening. As you can see, we're hopped on board with my esteemed colleague in that number 051 car, taking a lap here around for everybody as you see him coming through the bus stop here until we head back into NASCAR 3 and 4. So Steve, I'm going to put it into your hands here, and you are going to take us through a lap at this very fun but very difficult Daytona Road Course here tonight.
Okay, we are now coming to the start-finish line. We're going to have a very heavy braking into turn 1. And I'll be going all the way down to first gear. You can make up a lot of time through this section right here if you get it correct. This is a real tricky turn.
Yeah, this is definitely one where it feels like you can take the turn way faster than you can, but then it really kind of tightens up at the very exit of it. Yeah, so you're right. That's going to be, I think, one of the big trouble spots tonight.
And this one is also tricky. I never really figured out in this car what's the best way to take it. But the most important turn is coming up right here. You want to get this one right because when you come out of this, you have a nice long straightaway. And that's where you really gain the most time if you get a good run on here.
Yeah, as I say, like I said, you go into the infield right before NASCAR 1. You come out at NASCAR 1, Steve, go through the infield, and then to say now you're down the backstretch here, heading into the bus stop.
And I did an off track on purpose so that they wouldn't count my time.
Yeah, and then that's the next part too, Steve, is I think that exit of the bus stop is going to be very crucial as well, because then you got all of NASCAR 3 and 4, and then the big run down the front straight back to the start-finish line. I think we might see a lot of passing opportunities here as well if they can get that exit correct. And then I think we'll see a braking duel here back into turn number 1.
Yeah, definitely. And with the way that the draft works in these cars, on both the sections on the big oval, somebody that gets a little bit extra momentum coming off the turn than the car in front of them, that draft is going to suck them right up and right past the guy that's in front of them. So that's really going to be the best place for passing.
Yeah, exactly right, Steve. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'd say pit strategy seems like it's going to be pretty straightforward tonight. We mentioned 38 laps is the race distance, but I was talking to drivers. It sounds like the fuel window is probably in the 10 to 11 lap range is what they can run on fuel. So we expect a 3-stopper. And I think we're going to see pretty much everybody pitting right around lap 10 on the dot. So I'll see if anyone maybe stretches it a lap or two, or stretches a lap or maybe pits a lap early just to try to get a clean pit entry and exit. So that'll be the other thing that we'll be definitely wanting to keep an eye on for these drivers tonight.
Are you still with me?
Yes, sir. Got you, sir. And I say another thing, Steve, too. I think that's what's also good that you're showing there. If you cut that grass, that is going to be another thing that drivers might be trying to get too aggressive through that bus stop. And if they do that during the race, they will likely get a slowdown penalty. So I think that's going to be the other thing for these drivers to really be careful about, have to really keep in mind, is to get a good but clean exit, because if they overshoot the bus stop there and get into the grass, they're going to get a slowdown penalty, which is usually a couple seconds. That's just going to drop them straight down the running order and potentially cost them, of course, a chance at maybe a top 3 finish here tonight.
Yep, definitely got to watch out for those. And these guys are kind of lucky compared to us Cup drivers, because as I mentioned to Gael when we were off air, they're missing the second bus stop, which is something just before the start finish line. Like,
I'd say I don't know if anybody's going to be missing it. For me personally, I really prefer this version. The extra bus stop, I think it just made life that much more difficult for me. So I mean, it's obviously everybody's got their preference on how they like it for the track setup. So it'll be a lot of fun to see. And then say we're talking some of the drivers here. Chris Jabot chiming in the chat. It sounds like he had a spin during his warm-up lap, and I was saying with the severe scrutiny of qualifying, say trying to prevent any shenanigans, I'll say unfortunately his simple mistake wound up DQing his lap. So say Chris in that 24 car, he's going to have to start from the pit, or not start from the pits, but start from the back here, depending on how many drivers put down a qualifying lap. So I'll say it's going to put him definitely at a disadvantage, but might open up a possibility for him to maybe look at trying to get maybe one of those highest climber awards here tonight as well.
I've had that happen.
We've never made mistakes, Steve. I don't know what you're talking about. And the other thing, Steve, that I think will really could make or hurt drivers' chances tonight is going to be pit entry, because these cars, obviously, as you know, they have really good brakes, and so I'll say these drivers, they can really send it into the pit lane. So it'll just depend on how aggressive, how many risks they're willing to take to get into pit road. I think that's going to be another thing that's going to be interesting to see for tonight. However, before we get to that point, we got to pull up our standings entering tonight. And right now, you see the points leader is Nick DeGroot by 42 points over Matt Wagner. And then you've got Jeff Heisong right there, just 1 point behind him. Craig Forsyth in fourth, unfortunately not here this evening. And then you've got Craig, in the fifth, you got Alec Coates. Then Charles Teed, Henry Bennett, Jim Brooks are the top 8. And again, we talked about the points championship as well. Say those top 8 in points will be advancing into the Final Four championship run. Winners automatically get that advancement. So you see Nick DeGroot, Matt Wagner already locked in there with their wins. Henry Bennett as well. And I'm not sure about for instance, about Andrew Wood. I think he's kind of a part-time runner, so we'll have to see if Andrew qualifies or not. Say he might kind of pull his name out of the hat, just because he probably won't be able to make those Final Four races. We'll have to find out from the powers that be. But I believe actually on the Indy Series, I want to say it's actually just the top 8 in points now that I remember. So yeah, so I think right now Jim Brooks right at the cutoff spot, so he's going to be having to try to get a good result here tonight as well. And Rachel, definitely not ignoring you as well. Glad to have you back on chat. I say, of course, glad to have Eric as well. So yeah, welcome back to the land of the living. I know you've been very busy with the work. Hopefully that's all been going smoothly for you. And knock on wood, it looks like the storm has passed around my area, so fingers crossed that I won't be disappearing. No internet connection loss for us during tonight's race. I say Steve's been having a little bit of storms in his area as well, so even though we're on complete opposite ends of the U.S., I say seems like weather affecting both of us somehow.
Yeah, what are the storms like out there, though? Don't you guys have like those crazy sandstorm kind of things?
We do get those sometimes, not too often, but say we mostly say for us in the summer here we get it's our monsoon season right now. So when we get storms, they're usually pretty heavy and a lot of lightning and thunder, and it's a pretty exciting show to watch. So I say those are definitely enjoyable, and that's usually where we get actually the majority of our rain for the year is through these month or two of weather. So it's a little bit of weather trivia for those maybe not familiar with the Southwest's weather. So you didn't think you'd be getting that in a broadcast here tonight on Green White Checker TV.
And people that don't know where I live, I'm in southern Connecticut. I'm looking at the radar right now, and I think we have about an hour to go before this massive area of rain gets here with a lot of yellow and red in it.
Well, then we're going to be telling our pole sitter, Henry Bennett, to get a move on this evening, Steve, because he is our pole sitter by 0.6 of a second. So Henry putting down a flyer there tonight. Next to him, though, is going to be Matt Wagner. Logan Helton making an appearance tonight. We know him very well on the Cup and the Premier Series side of things. He's put in a great qualifying lap in third. There's Eric Schaus in fourth. Covey Moore, a road course ringer in that 98, will be fifth. Then you got Jim Brooks in sixth. Nick DeGroot, the teammate of Covey Moore, in seventh. David Payton, 8th. Michael Spell, 9th. Yari Brupacher rounds out our top 10. And then you see you got Gary Corley in 11th. Todd Merkel in the 12th position. And then you got Jack Walls in 13th. Andrew Wood, he's 2 for 2 in the races he's run, Steve. He's going to see if he can make it 3 for 3 time, but he's going to do it from 14th position. This might be a tough one for him to be able to pull off tonight. And then you got Jeff Heisong, Anders Arhus, Chris Jabot, Charles Teed, James Ledford, and Chris Matthews rounding out our top 20. And then in 22nd, we have Joseph Morales. 23rd is Kurt Rose. And I believe that is going to be all of our drivers for this evening. So I also see Joseph DeCiro in our qualifying, or in my standings list here, but I'm not seeing him on the grid, so we'll have to kind of keep an eye and see if he is in the race tonight or not. But I believe we're going to have 23 drivers taking the field here this evening. And I think the big part, Steve, first off, is going to be making turn number 1. So these cars won't be quite up to full speed at the start-finish line on this initial green flag, so these drivers are going to have to make sure they give plenty of room here. And drivers also going to be very careful not to be too aggressive on that pit or on the entry of turn 1. Very easy to get into the back of somebody here coming to the start.
And this track, compared to the last couple road courses that we've run in this series, is not as technically difficult. You just have to, be careful to hit your marks properly. But I think that this is going to be more of the kind of less a race of people of attrition, and more of a race of minor mistakes, like just not getting off a corner well enough and things like that.
Yeah, I agree with you there. So an interesting note too, front row, we've got hard tires on Henry Bennett, softs on Matt Wagner. Row number 2, we got the Sour Patch Kid cars there, matching cars for Logan Hilton, Eric Schaus. So we'll try our best to differentiate the two of them. And then in the third row there, we got Covey Moore right behind him. You got his teammate there with Nick DeGroot. However, pace car is dropping off in just a moment. It's going to put it into the hands of Henry Bennett. And once that green flag flies, we will be underway here. 38 laps is the distance here tonight at Daytona Road Course.
Gael, I already figured out how to tell the difference. Eric Schaus is the one with the pink wheels.
All right, we'll keep an eye on the pink wheels to know which is which. And you see Matt Wagner a little wide there through turn number 1. Looks like he's going to gather back up. Loses a spot, though. But I believe we had some drivers have a little bit of trouble in turn 1 towards the back. And so far, so good, though. I don't see anybody that's not... Actually, no, as I say, that looks like Todd Merkel is still sitting. I think he actually had to take a tow, unfortunately. We'll try to take a look and see what happened to Todd here on this initial start. So we'll jump back to the action here. You see him in that 2 machine on the outside line. And it looks like Anders Arhus catches him. Anders goes around as well in the 10 car, so 2 cars around here. And so unfortunately a bad start for the both of them there. Say Anders, I think definitely not the start he was looking for. Some front wing damage for him. And then Todd Merkel, I think, opts to take a tow there. So we'll jump back live though and get back to our leader with Henry Bennett here as he heads into the bus stop for the first time.
Yeah, I guess I should have mentioned that that if there was one bad area on this whole race, it was going to be going into turn 1 on the start of the race.
Yeah, it definitely has been one of the trouble spots. I think the bus stop, another one that's going to be a little bit tricky as well. And right now, this is what I wanted to see here. I want to see what this draft does. Because you can see right now, Henry Bennett's got about a half-second gap over Logan Helton. But Logan has not closed as much as I thought he would. However, interesting to note here, Steve, that for this first lap, Henry Bennett, he's already used 2 of his 10 push-to-passes, with Logan Helton still having all 10, so pretty interesting. Usually Henry, I feel like, is one to use those kind of sparingly, but he's definitely being aggressive here, trying to, I think, build that gap and maybe get out of that draft of that number 63 car.
I'm kind of surprised that he's used them already.
Yeah, same here. So we'll have to see what happens there. We do need to mention, though, some big climbers just on that first lap right off the bat here, Steve. The number 64, Andrew Wood, he is +5 from his starting spot. He's worked his way now into the 9th position. I see a lot of tire lockup going into that second horseshoe. And then behind him, Charles Teed, also 5 positions gained into now the 13th position. And 6 spots gained right behind him for the 92 of Chris Matthews. So great opening lap for those guys. Kurt Rose as well in the 61. He's gained 5 spots as well. So these guys definitely making hay while they can here early on. And I have a feeling this race is going to start settling in after those couple of laps.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. It seems to be settling in even now. I'm noticing, at least up front, people are getting a gap between each other than maybe the first 3. And I think it's going to stay that way for a while.
Yeah, so here's that big run we just talked about. Logan Helton, he gets right on the rear wing here of Henry Bennett. He's going to peek to the outside at the line. I think Henry's going to hang on to the lead here. But here comes that drag race into turn 1 that we just talked about. Going to be a braking duel. Both drivers send it in extremely deep. They stay 2x2 here through turn number 1. Now it's who can get the better traction out as they go side by side through the S as well into International Horseshoe number 1. And the next thing to mention, Steve, is these 2 drivers, again, on the hard tires. And last time by, quickest car on track was the 11 of Matt Wagner. Matt is on the soft tires, so he's going to have a little more grip than these guys. So I'll have to see if that comes into play or not tonight. And like you mentioned, Eric Schaus, he's in a good spot here right behind with a nice gap between him and Covey Moore. And unfortunately, looking on track, it looks like I think we've had a couple of cars have some issues with Chris Matthews and Gary Corley. We'll try to see if I can take a look to see what happened between the 2 of them as we jump back here to take a look as they're in turn number 1. So they head into the first International Horseshoe. You see Chris takes a look. Oh, Chris just too much rear brake, and unfortunately the contact between the 2 of them. And you see he has some right rear suspension damage to his car. Gary Corley, unfortunately, he had to go off track as well. Oh, Anders Arhus with the slide as well. And you see just kind of everybody stacking up behind him. Jack Walls got caught up in that as well. I believe that's also not the 60 of Joseph Morales. Trying to catch the other car that was involved. I think it was Joseph DeCiro possibly. Yeah, and he's got left front suspension damage. So kind of all kicked off there real quick here. So we'll jump back live once more. Because we wanted to keep an eye on that fight for the lead, because right now Henry Bennett and Logan Helton, they are not giving each other any room here to try to keep this fight between the 2 of them.
Yeah, Logan Helton had actually gotten by. I think it was just before the bus stop, and Henry Bennett started.
Oh, Logan overshoots the horseshoe there in the grass, saves it though, gets back on the asphalt. That's going to cost him the lead and drop him to 4th. That's going to put Henry Bennett back to the lead here, Steve. But again, he's got his hands full now with Matt Wagner, Eric Schaus. And I believe we mentioned Matt on the Reds here, and Eric is, I believe, on the alternate Reds as well. So I say right now we'll see if Henry is able to use those harder tires and hold on to that spot. But I say obviously a lot cost Logan the lead here, but look at the interval. He's only 2 seconds off the lead, so a great recovery for him even with that slide.
Yeah, definitely. And it looks like the guys behind them are starting to catch up a little bit.
Oh, Covey Moore had a moment coming out of the infield into NASCAR when he's trying to get it looped back around. I say he's trying to do it as safely as he can. I think Jim Brooks as well may have just had a moment as well in the 51. He has, and that car may be having to take a tow. I think maybe those two had contact coming out of that out of NASCAR 1. Let's take a look here. We'll watch Covey Moore. You see Jim Brooks right behind him, so I think that's where we're going to see the contact. As here comes Covey Moore. He takes the turn. Yeah, just a little too aggressive on the throttle. And then Jim Brooks, yeah, tries to get around him, but heavy contact for Jim into the outside wall. So that car is going to most likely have to take a tow as well. So unfortunately, this track is biting and biting quickly. And actually, Jari Brubacher, I think, as well, Steve, just to add more to it, I think he may have got caught out by the bus stop here on the same lap. So we're watching from Yari's point of view here. And let's see as he comes through the bus stop. Oh, just a little bit too much curb and just catches the outside wall and heavy damage to that 49 car as well. So I'll say this is a very fast and technical track, but it is biting drivers very quickly as we have now I want to say about 8 drivers here, Steve, in the pits currently.
Wow, that's a lot more attrition than I thought we would have this quickly.
Yeah, so right now sitting in the pits, you have Covey Moore, Jim Brooks, Chris Matthews, Gary Corley, Jari Brubacher, Jack Walls, and Joseph DeCiro. I think Chris Jabot may have had a moment as well in the 24 car. Actually, looks like he's retired as well, so I'm not sure what happened to Chris, unfortunately. So Chris also now out of this race. So yeah, this track is biting quickly and early, which leaves us now 14 on the lead lap. And for Tammy and on the YouTube chat to answer your question on the push to pass, the way it works is these cars have a button, which actually we're going to hop on board Matt Wagner because you can see that green light on the cockpit. He's using it now. What that does is it gives the cars just a little bit extra power. I'm not sure the exact number. I want to say maybe around 50 or so horsepower. And you have 10 uses of it that you kind of use at your discretion. So right now Matt Wagner using it to great effect. They're able to really close the gap on Henry Bennett. And it's just one of those things that the road courses, these drivers have the options to use to kind of put themselves in a contention. I'll say drivers will use it to maybe try to make a pass or get within that drafting zone of the car in front of them. And of course during pit stop cycles as well to maybe try to get that fast lap to maybe jump somebody in the pits as well. So it's a great question. I say, yeah, it's one of those things that you have to be very smart about how you use it because again, you only have 10 of them throughout the race to use. And with a 38 lap race, so you're going to have to kind of pick and choose when you want to use them here.
Okay, we've got 15 cars on the lead lap now. And unfortunately for the guys that have had trouble, we've got quite a few that are a lap down. There's no yellow flags or anything that's going to allow them to catch up. So basically those guys are all going to be racing each other probably for 16th on back, depending on what happens with the guys in the top 15, which, could still make mistakes.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, we're only on lap 6 here, Steve, so we're still over 30 laps to go in this one. And I mean, again, you see just how much commitment right there Henry Bennett through the bus stop. He's just sending it there into that bus stop. And I mean, and that's what Henry's got to do, though. He's got to be aggressive through the bus stop to try to make that momentum back up. But you see Matt Wagner, he's starting to lose a little bit of ground to Henry, but it's bringing him right into the clutches of Eric Schaus. And then recovering from that slide a little bit earlier, Logan Helton as well. As you see Eric Schaus, he's going to peek to the inside of that 11 car. And it looks like Eric's going to grab the second spot here going into turn number 1. And a little further back, Steve, we mentioned not having the qualifying position he wanted to in that number 64 of Andrew Wood. Andrew's all the way up already into the 5th position, +9 for him in the opening 7 laps. So a great job by Andrew to work his way all the way up into the top 5. The problem now is with that starting position that he had, he is 11 seconds off of our leader, Henry Bennett. I say another driver with a huge opening couple of laps here is the number 5 of Charles Teed. 8 positions gained for him, and right behind him, 12 positions gained for Kurt Rose, all the way up into the 11th spot.
Yeah, 10 seconds is an awful lot to make up on these guys that are up front because these guys are stout on road courses, these top 4. And Henry Bennett is basically just a robot.
Yeah, I say Henry Bennett's a beast of these road courses. I say obviously you never can count anybody out with these ones. You never know how the strategies are going to go. Again, simple mistakes, traffic come into play. I say right now Henry's got plenty of clean air. The next closest car to him is in turn number 1 now. So he's got all the way through NASCAR 3 and 4 until he sees that next car. So he's in a pretty good spot right now. But again, we mentioned though, As they even actually mentioned, yeah, Logan Helton, he's just got around Matt Wagner now to move Logan back up into third. So say we got those Sour Patch Kid cars right back together again now in that second and third position.
Yeah, Matt had a bad exit out of the bus stop, which is what gave Logan Helton the chance to pass him there. I'm looking at this, and it looks like Andrew Wood just got past David Payton.
Yep, the David Payton pass, that was the 5th position there. And the other thing, Steve, really quickly coming up on is going to be our first set of pit stops. Again, we mentioned probably about 10 laps or so will be the first pit window. So we'll see again, does anybody maybe try to stretch it a lap or so longer? Maybe we see a driver try to pit maybe a lap sooner. As you see, here comes the 63 Logan Helton. I think those the primary black tire starting to get a little bit more grip. Probably Eric Schaus losing a little bit of grip in the 72 car with his reds. I think that's why we see Logan as well making a move back to the front here. And unfortunately, as they just caught on my screen here, I think Andrzar, who's had a moment in turn 1, looks like he gathered up quickly, though, so he stays rolling here. And he is, with all the stuff he's had go on, Steve, he's still sitting in the 12th position, +4 from his starting spot. So an adventurous race for Anders so far, but still holding on to a pretty solid position here. Yep,
and Anders is a pretty solid road course racer, too.
And saying, here's the interesting one. We got both drivers here in the Sour Patch Kid cars using their push to pass here. Eric Schaus is using it to try to, I think, catch Logan. Logan using his to try to get away from Eric or stay out of Eric's draft. So that's another thing you can use that for. You can use it for strategy, for defense as well as offense. So I think Logan really chose the timing of that well, because with Eric on the button, had Logan not been on it, I think Eric would have been probably right at his rear wing entering turn number 1 there.
And these guys had all been within 2 seconds of each other. The top 4 now they're within 3 seconds. So Henry Bennett he keeps stretching out his lead. But Andrew Wood is running, looks like about the same kind of lap times as Henry Bennett. So
yeah, you're right. 132.10 to Henry's 132.11, so very good pace in that 64 car. And again, still just about 30 laps to go. And unfortunately, I think I did some commentators' curse on Kurt Rose, because he's gone off track and then had to jump to the pits. So we'll try to take a look, see what happened to Kurt here, as he was behind Charles Teed in the 5. And just overshot the bus stop a little bit, and instead of hitting the 5 car, opted to hurt his own car and basically take himself out of that race, instead of getting into the 5 of Charles Teed. So unfortunate for Kurt, but at the same time, it's a pretty rare thing to see someone take themselves out instead of getting into the back of somebody.
Very gentlemanly and respectful.
Yeah, indeed it is. And looking to see if we have a pit stop yet. No, we don't. Henry Bennett going to stay out another lap. Same goes for Logan Helton, and it looks like Eric Schaus as well. So far, no takers here as we start lap number 10 of the 38-lap race. But actually, here we have our first taker, Steven, and it is going to be that 64 of Andrew Wood. Andrew looks like he's going to aim for a slightly alternate strategy in the 64 machine.
So I didn't really notice if the lap times fell off much, but if they have been falling off, then that's going to be a good move on Andrew Wood's part.
It looks like, yeah, times have fallen off about a second, roughly, especially for our fastest drivers, Logan Helton, Henry Bennett. They were in the mid to low 130s. They're now in the mid to high 131s. So, yes, I think this could definitely be a good gamble here for him. And he also, as you see, he goes on the primary black tire. So, again, not quite as grippy to start off, but then should be able to work well on the long run. So, for him now, the question is going to be, where does he come out in relation to the field? And he comes out right behind Charles Teed, right in front of Jim Brooks. But now he's got to be careful, get the temperatures back in those tires before he really starts to get too aggressive.
And I can't remember if you told everybody or not, but these drivers are required to run at least one set of reds and one set of blacks for the race.
That's correct. Yeah, I'm not sure if I did either, Steve, so you're right. So, for instance, for Henry Bennett, he started the race on the primary black tires. When he pits, it doesn't have to be this time, but at some point he's going to have to put those alternate reds on. And as I said, here comes Henry Bennett to pit road now. And he's also bringing with him Logan Helton right behind Eric Schaus and Matt Wagner. So all of these drivers coming to lap number 11. So we'll see if anybody's going to try to stretch out one extra lap. But so far, these leaders all in the same strategy. And actually, as I say that, here comes Nick DeGroot, here comes David Payton. So I think these guys have pretty much stretched as far as they could on their fuel here. And it looks like for Henry, I believe he's staying with the primary blacks. He is, so he's going to save those reds for later on as he heads out of the pits. Logan Helton going to chase him down, also on the primary black still. And then Eric Schaus going to jump Matt Wagner here. Those two have started on the reds. They're now on the black, so they're good to go on the tire strategy here, Steve. So now what I want to see is, I want to see what the interval is between themselves and Andrew Wood once this pit stop cycle completes, to see if he was able to gain some time on the leaders.
Andrew Wood just went into turn 1. He was 11.4 seconds behind Henry before.
Let's take a look in that 64 car. And I say, right, still kind of updating, but looks like it's down to about, or it's now up to about 14 seconds, just about. However, I think he has really closed the gap on Eric Schaus and Matt Wagner. It's only about, I think if I'm seeing this right, about 6 seconds between him and Matt. So I think a net gain for him overall for third and fourth, though. But yeah, Henry Bennett, though, I think he nailed his pit stop overall, because he's been able to stretch his lead now out to 4 seconds. So I'd say I think Henry did something there. So I'm looking at the pit lane time, and Henry Bennett ran a 43.48 in the pits compared to Logan's 43.03. But somewhere Henry's able to stretch that gap now out to about 4 seconds. So a really good pit exit there for Henry. I think maybe just getting the most out of those cold tires. So while I believe I'm going to double check, make sure everybody has at least made their first stop here. There's a few drivers that pitted early on, let's say when they had to take those tows. We saw a lot of drivers have that earlier, unfortunately. So right now, Henry Bennett, our pole sitter, leading. Logan Helton there in second. Eric Schaus in the third position. Right behind him, you've got Matt Wagner there in fourth. And then you got to go about 5 seconds back to get to the 64 of Andrew Wood. Again, +9 for him since from his starting position. In sixth, you have Nick DeGroot, kind of Mr. Photo finish in some of the early races of the season. He's holding a strong sixth right now, but he's got a lot of pressure from David Payton there in the seventh spot. I haven't talked about Jeff Heisong much, Steve. He is up to eighth. He is +7 from his starting position, so a great start for Jeff as well. And Michael Spell holding on to the top 10 in ninth, right where he started. I'd say it looks like so far nice and, I wouldn't say calm, but I'd say he's in a nice little pocket here, about 7 seconds in front of him, 7 seconds behind him, which behind him is that 5 of Charles Teed, who is +8 from his starting position. And then we mentioned Anders Arhus. He's now worked his way up to 11th position in the 10. Then Joseph Morales in the 12th position, +10 for him as well. And I believe only one other car on the lead lap right now, and that is right behind Jari Brupacher in that 49 machine. And then we mentioned those drivers 1 lap or more down. You've got the 98 of Kobe Moore. Oh, actually, as I said, I think we had an issue with, I believe Todd Merkel may have got into, I think Anders Arhus, Todd Merkel may have come together here. We'll try to take a look here from Anders' point of view. You see the 10 car here entering the International Horseshoe.
No, Anders just got.
Oh, he got. Oh, yeah, you're right. He got a little too wide on the exit. I saw contact. Oh, it may have been unrelated. Actually, I think him and Todd Merkel had separate incidents there. Actually, so actually just a slide, nothing too bad, and actually didn't cost him any positions on track either. Just some track time. So I say it on the timing and scoring showed me 2 drivers had an incident right together. So you kind of just put 2 and 2 together there. But it does look like Todd Merkel and James Ledford may have had a moment as well. But it looks like all of those drivers are back on track. Although, as I say, yeah, Todd Merkel, he definitely took a shot, though, Steve, because he's missing his left front wing as he hits pit road now for either a fast repair or possibly a front wing replacement.
And the good thing is he didn't have to take a tow. So
yeah, that's going to save a lot of time.
Yep.
And now, for the drivers that unfortunately are out of this race, Steve, because we mentioned, I mean, it bit hard and early. So unfortunately, it looks like Kurt Rose, Chris Matthews, and Chris Chabot have all retired from the event already. So they're going to be in 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, respectively. But then we mentioned those drivers that are 1 lap or more down. It's Kobe Moore in the 98 machine. Then you got Jim Brooks, Gary Corley, Joseph DeCiro, and Jack Walls 1 down, with now James Ledford and Todd Merkel with their most recent incidents, putting them 2 laps down. And, I think we may have... Oh, no. I think Eric Schaus went off track, and, oh, yeah, that car is hurting here. Let me see what happened with Eric Schaus here in that 72 car as he enters the bus stop, Steve. But Rachel, unfortunately, Eric, oh, yeah, just way too hot there. It looks like entering the bus stop. Takes a brutal shot there. And then I think just winds up having to take a tow. You can see he's going to try to see if he can get that car back to the pits. But I think the damage is just too much here for him. And opts to take a tow and not put himself or any of the other drivers in harm's way, unfortunately. So and that's what we talked about, Steve, is potential mistakes by other drivers, and that's going to put some other drivers in contention here still. So notably, we mentioned Andrew Wood. I mean, he's now up into fourth in that 64 car, and he is about 6 seconds off of Matt Wagner. Looking at the lap times as well, he was about a half a second quicker than Matt. However, quickest car last time by, Steve, 43.03 Logan Helton to a 43.48 for Henry Bennett. So Logan's going to do all he can here to try to keep that pressure on that 007.
And that's a shame for Eric. I mean, Eric is extremely good on road courses, and we've seen him, challenge for the win quite a few times on these kind of places, and he was right in with these guys, at least challenging for a top three, and it's a shame to see that happen. But it's easy to understand, because if you don't quite get in the bus stop right, it can bite you really hard. It did that to me once in practice.
Yeah, no, the bus stop is a very, very finicky track. It's very tempting to just be super aggressive and really get after it here. As always, see right here, the 007 Henry Bennett trying to work around Jack Walls. As I think it's one of those kind of miscommunications where Jack maybe thought that Henry's going to go one way, Henry went the other. You see now Jack roll out of it to let the leader on by. Obviously, that's going to slow Henry down a little bit there that last lap. And that's going to be a thing is getting through traffic. It's going to wind up kind of you're going to gain some, you're going to lose some. As you see now, oh, big lock up there from the 63. You see Logan really trying to send it in there into the second horseshoe. Almost got into the back of Jack Walls. So I say it might wind up being a bit of a wash between the two of them, as they both had a little bit of an issue there through the infield section. So I say there's a lot happening here still, Steve. And you're right, though. I mean, like you said, with that bus stop, I mean, I was able to be part of the iRacing 24 Hours of Daytona with some of the Area 51 guys, my dad and Matt Wagner, I believe, Chris Jabot, and my brother. And unfortunately, I had the exact same thing happen in the bus stop. I was just a little too aggressive on the curb on the exit, and just threw my car to the outside wall, and we had a long repair. We were able to finish the race still, but I felt so bad, especially when you're in a team event there, to kind of ruin the kind of the current run that you were having with your teammates. And actually, I can't leave out there also on our team was that 72 of Eric Schaus as well.
Well, at least Eric wasn't the one that did it.
No, Eric was a beast at Daytona. I felt bad. So I was saying I felt bad because he was our opener, and he did a really good job getting us up the running order. And as I just felt like I kind of threw everything away there. And that's the difficulty of this track. Doesn't matter if you're in the prototypes or if you're in the Indy cars. I say that it's just a very, very difficult turn. It looks straightforward, but if you want to make any kind of speed, you have a lot of commitment. And unfortunately, if you get it wrong, it goes bad. It goes wrong in a bad way.
The thing is, when you get that turn, when you get the bus stop right, you can gain a tremendous amount of time. That's one of the best places on this track to gain time.
Yeah, exactly right. And as I also mentioning in our chat, Chris Matthews mentioning he was just too aggressive, unfortunately, and that's what got him out of the race, unfortunately, in that 92 car. So, I mean, this track has been biting, and it's been getting the best of them as well. So, we do have a few drivers hitting pit road right now. It includes Jim Brooks, Covey Moore. Actually, as Covey actually loops it on the pit exit there, I say he's going to be in a tough spot here. Got to figure out how to try to get that car looped around, because he's in a very difficult spot there. He goes, grabs a gear, and is able to gas it, spin it back around. But unfortunately, it's going to cost Covey a little bit more than, the race is already not going quite to his plan. But that car is definitely still pretty upset here. I think he has some suspension damage. He's going to have to take a tow, unfortunately. So just kind of from bad to worse for that number 98 car.
Do you know if he used this fast repair already?
I believe he did. I believe he was in that incident. Actually, I think he had to take a tow of Jim Brooks. So that might be, unfortunately, the evening for Covey in that number 98. So we'll keep an eye and see in the timing and scoring. As we have a few more drivers hitting the pits. Yari Brupacher, Joseph DeCiro, Jack Walls is in pits as well. And yeah, you're definitely right there, Chris, about the commentator's curse. I got you a bit as well, commenting on how many spots you gained early on. So apologies there, sir. But man, this gap up front, it's kind of an ebb and flow, Steve, between the 63, the 007, and the 11. They're all about 5-6 seconds apart from one another. But every lap, let's say, it kind of swings who was faster the lap back and forth. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see. And let me double check here. I think Anders Aarhus may have got a little bit loose there on the exit into NASCAR. Oh, no, I think actually through the bus stop it's showing. And actually, I think Jari Brubacher may have just had a moment as well, Steve. Oh, definitely a big moment. That car is upside down, Steve.
Oh, no. I hope he's all right.
What happened to Jari here? We're going to go back and take a look. So we talked about drivers' nights going from bad to worse. Unfortunately, Jari, one of those as well. He had just pitted, Steve, so I think this could have been a cold tire situation for Jari here. We'll keep it. We'll watch this 49 car.
God. You got to show this replay.
Oh, yeah, that shouldn't happen. So actually, Daytona decided it did not like Jari, Steve, and it just decided, you know what, I'm going to throw your car up in the air, and that's going to be your night. So, wow. Jari, I am sorry, man. That shouldn't happen. So, unfortunately, Jari Brubacher, the victim of some very, very interesting difficulties on the track. Let's say just jumping around the top 10 here a little bit. I think Anders may have had a little bit of an off-track excursion, but car looks clean, so that is good. But we got a good fight here. It looks like, yeah, David Payton, Nick DeGroot. Nick just now grabbing the spot from David here to get himself into the top 5. Let's say those two are going back and forth there at the initial part of the infield here. So, yeah, that's one of the crazier things we've seen, Steve, on a race there with, unfortunately, nothing Jari could do.
No, I mean that's something where you just feel like when you're the driver, you feel like, all right, okay, I lost the car a little bit. I'm going through a real slow slide. I'll just let it finish sliding, and then I can start going again. And then all of a sudden, your car gets launched into the air. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I don't think that's how it's supposed to happen, but unfortunately, that was the case for Jari. And yeah, I think same thing for him. I think him and Covey, that's probably the end of their evenings. Todd Merkel, he has retired as well, so that's 20th on back, unfortunately, out of this one tonight. As they were still watching Nick DeGroot, David Payton, he's got a nice draft off of Nick here to get back into NASCAR 3 and 4 into the tri-oval, but Nick had a nice draft as well off of Gary Corley, so I think that's going to kind of negate the gains that that David's getting. However, Steve, we're starting lap number 19 here. We're at 20 to go, which means pit road window is going to be open very shortly here. I think again last time we saw the 64 Andrew Wood, he was the first one in. So I think probably next time by, I suspect we'll see that 64 hit pit road.
Yep, I think you're right. And obviously the best battle on the track right now, the closest one, at least on the lead lap, is Nick DeGroot and David Payton. They are both 32 and 33 seconds behind Henry Bennett, the leader. Let's see. Andrew Wood is 17 seconds behind. Matt Wagner is 12 seconds behind. And Logan Helton is maintaining at 5.4 seconds behind.
Yes, and this, like you said, this is a pretty good fight here for the two of them. They started in 7th and 8th respectively, so they both gained 2 spots since the start here. And again, I mean, we talked about how important qualifying was going to be just for the sake of track position, and that's exactly what we're seeing here, I think, again tonight. So some of those drivers we mentioned starting not mid-pack, but I mean, I think, again, right now we're looking at the drivers, our top 3 started in the top 3, so that just shows how important qualifying is. And as we mentioned, one of those first cars in the pits this time again around is going to be that 64 of Andrew Wood as he makes his second of 3 scheduled stops here tonight. So I believe that will likely mean we'll see Henry Bennett, Logan Helton, and Matt Wagner most likely in next time, with probably the rest of the drivers as well, as it seems like they've all are pretty much set on that same strategy tonight.
Yeah, it looks like the top 3 at least are going with the 10, 10, 10, and 8 strategy.
Yeah, and that's gonna be the question too, Steve. Is maybe that final stop, maybe that last one, maybe someone does do 9 and 9 at the end just to split that final run in half. Because I think just again, as quick as these cars are able to fuel and how quick the tires are, I don't think it's going to be an advantage to maybe try like a fuel-only stop like you might see in one of the like the Premier Series or Super Speedway Series. So I suspect that's what we're going to see for these guys here as well. However, I'm going to jump back again with David Payton and Nick DeGroot because Nick has not been able to shake that 38 car. These two having a great fight right now, I'll say right now for that 4th and 5th position. As I say, now they've been able to cycle around in front of Andrew Wood, who just made his pit stop. And as I say that, here comes Henry Bennett make his second scheduled stop.
I wonder, these two guys will probably pit right now too.
Yeah, I think they will. So the next one to watch yet, Matt Wagner, here he comes. So let's say pretty much the same as we saw last time. So we've got our top 3 hitting pit road now. We saw, again, Andrew Wood pitted a lap earlier. And so now we'll watch to see this battle. I mean, and this is the thing. This fight could go into pit lane. Maybe David Payton tries to outbrake Nick DeGroot on the pit entry. So we'll watch these two as they hit pit road. Say because this again definitely a spot where you can gain some time. But I think Nick took no chances there. Definitely a nice entry for him, able to keep that 38 at bay.
Yeah, and David Payton, the same thing. He did not, he didn't try and force it in there and, try and pass on the way in or anything. We'll see if they can come out as close together as they came in.
Yeah, so now it's all about hitting their pit stalls correctly. So we'll take a look here. As you see Nick there, they come down exactly the same time, and yeah, they're going to come out right together again. Oh, a little bit of too much power there on the exit for David Payton, going to cost him maybe a couple of tenths here, Steve. But he still will be pretty close to that number 89 of Nick DeGroot here on the pit exit. But what's going to happen here, they're going to come out right behind the 51 of Jim Brooks, who again is on a different pit cycle, unfortunately, with that damage he had earlier. So these two, yeah, going to continue the fight. But yeah, I think Nick DeGroot just gaining a little bit of time, but actually overshoots the horseshoe a little bit. That's going to bring David Payton a little bit closer to say that was not what Nick wanted to have happen there.
And let's see, David Payton's on the red tires.
And I believe Nick is too. So they're on the same strategy still somehow. These two just aren't able to get away from one another. So I'm sure these two are definitely enjoying the fight they're having with one another. Again, got to mention after the pit stop cycle, Henry Bennett, as he's about to cross start finish line again, this is going to put us at 17 to go. Looks like about just under a 7-second lead for him over Logan Helton. But I'm watching that battle for third, Steve, because Andrew Wood, he is slowly but surely closing the gap. It's about 4 seconds now between himself and Matt Wagner. So again, we have one more pit stop to go. So that's that 64 car. So we'll have to see if he can bring that gap down and get into that top 3 position tonight.
I think there's a pretty good chance, but at least Matt Wagner is not going to have to worry about saving fuel or anything like that tonight.
Oh, unfortunately, it's like Charles Teed may have looped it on the pit exit there, Steve. I say even though you're on the pit limiter still, that's a very difficult pit exit. I say myself and many others, I say I've hit the wall at that wall coming on the left-hander to get out of the pit road. It looks like the car is okay. May have just looped it, but it's going to cost him obviously a fair bit of time. It drops him back to, it looks like, the 12th position. That's going to propel Joseph Morales now up into 11th in that number 60, and then also puts Anders Arhus now back into the top 10. So I'm trying to see what the gap is between himself and Michael Spell, because right now as he goes through NASCAR 2, Michael is actually in NASCAR 4, so he's about a full, yeah, he's a fair bit back there from him. So Anders going to have a lot of work to do to catch that 80 at Michael Spell. As I mentioned, Michael's been, I'd say hopefully no commentator's curse, knock on wood and everything, Michael here. But it looks like you've had a nice solid race, so say keep it up, sir. So I want to see you finish in that top 10 tonight. And yeah, Yari, you are exactly right there. That was a very interesting incident. Say Steve and I we went back and we definitely took a look at that, and yeah, I mean there's not much else we can say other than we're sorry, because nothing you did wrong there. Just that track decided it wanted to throw you up in the air and have some flips there tonight.
And going back up to the David Payton and Nick DeGroot battle here.
Oh, they're back. They're still at it. David Payton now back to that number 5 position here. So it's a great battle here for the 5th spot between David and Nick. Like I said, David just now getting the spot back into turn 1 here. And Andrew is on a mission right now. He was about a full second quicker than Matt Wagner that last time by. That gap down to about 3 seconds now between the two of them. And I was saying the other thing, though, Andrew is using his push to passes. He's only got 3 left here, Steve, with Matt having 5 remaining, Henry Bennett with 8 remaining, Logan Helton with 7. So say Andrew's going to say once he gets to Matt, if he can, that's going to open up. Oh, actually, Logan Helton, Steve, Logan had to take a toe, Steve. Not sure what happened. We'll go back and we'll look. But unfortunately, Logan Helton looks like his chances at a top 3 may have just gone away here. We'll take a look. It looks like it may have been the bus stop once again.
That is a shame because he was solidly in second place.
That was a very weird incident, Steve. Very, very similar looking to me to what happened to Yari here, where the car just all of a sudden just threw the car straight into the wall. So we'll actually watch from his roll bar here. Watch as he hits the first part of it, comes to the right. Oh, actually, he tries to. I think he felt like it was getting loose. He tries to catches it and just sends him straight into the pit. Well, you can see his mirror go flying off even. So unfortunately, obviously has to take a tow there. So huge, unfortunate event there for Logan Helton. So that actually, with that happening now, that propels right off the bat Andrew Wood into the 3rd position, and still now he's within the running now of trying to grab that 2nd spot from Matt Wagner. So say he's had 2 races, he had 2 wins. He's, like we mentioned, he's going to try to make it 3 for 3, but I don't know if he's going to be able. As long as Henry keeps this thing clean, I think Henry's looking very solid here. But as we've seen, some of the best drivers, it's unfortunately been biting a few of them.
Now I'm watching the in-car from Logan Helton's crash, and I'm thinking that when he took that left turn into the bus stop, he went over the grass pretty heavily on the left side. I'm wondering if that upset the car and made it hard for him to turn right. And when he did, maybe, like you said, it got loose, and then he overcorrected and into the wall.
Yeah, I think he just tried to catch it. Unfortunately, it's one of those things. It's just your natural instinct. You want to try to drive into the slide. You try to catch it, and then every so often it just catches at the wrong time. And we saw him. He put that little bit of left wheel input in to try to catch it, and that car just hooked and sent him straight into the tire barriers. So, do need to mention though, Steve, we were talking about that battle, David Payne and Nick DeGroot. David's actually been able to stretch it out a little bit now to just about a second. Between himself and Nick. So I'll say he's trying to see if he can get a little bit of separation, maybe get a little bit of breathing room, as he's got a little bit of traffic here right in front of him. So that's going to be potentially an equalizer to bring Nick right back into this fight. However, I do need to mention and say with that unfortunate incident for the number 63 of Logan Helton, that's dropped him back to the 8th position here. And I believe, yet 1 lap down as well for him. So that's going to move Michael Spell now up into the 7th spot. However, Logan's not too far behind and try to grab that spot back. And again, we were talking about Anders Arhus here. He is closing that gap on Michael little by little here. He's up to 9th now. So say Anders still see maybe he can get into the kind of the top half of this top 10 in his number 10 car. No pun intended on all those 10s, by the way.
And I'm noticing that Eric Schaus, for all his trouble, is up to 9th place, and that's not bad.
No, it's a great recovery for Eric. Like I said, back into the top 10. And the other thing is interesting for Eric was he just pitted here, I believe, because he's pitted on lap number 23. So I'll say maybe on a slightly different pit strategy. I'm not sure because he and Logan Helton actually pitted on the same lap there. So it doesn't get him into the window where he can make it by any means. So I'm curious to see maybe he tries a little bit of an alternate strategy. Maybe gets a splash of fuel once he's in the window. We'll to kind of see what the strategy is going to be on that one for the number 72 car. But he's actually slowly but surely also closing that gap on Anders Arhus because now they're within about a second of one another. And Steve, we had talked about that battle for 5th and now 4th. It's down to just about a half a second here between Nick DeGroot and David Payton. Actually, Nick DeGroot has actually gotten back around David Payton. So these two just can't get away from one another here.
Yep, it's best battle on the track. And what happened was they came up on Joseph DeCiro, who's one of the lap cars, and David Payton. I don't know if he misjudged or what, but somewhere I think coming out of the bus stop, he had to actually slow down so he didn't run into DeCiro, and so he lost a ton of momentum getting back up on the track, which is how Nick DeGroot was able to close the gap and get by him.
And so we're hopping on board here with Eric Schaus as he's going to take, he got a great bus stop exit, Steve. He's going to take the momentum to the top, see if he can complete the pass on that 10 of Anders Arhus. This is again battle for 9th and 10th. But Anders has the shorter distance through the tri-oval, so now it's going to be that braking duel, and it looks like Eric's going to send it into turn number 1, but he's going to get it woed down in time, so move Eric back up into the 9th position. And now we're going to jump again back to this battle, though, Steve, because here comes David Payne. He's got a good run on the 89 of Nick DeGroot. We'll see if Dave's going to try to complete this pass through the tri-oval here. And it looks like Nick's able to hold onto that position back into turn number 1. I say right now we are at 12 to go for our race leader, Henry Bennett. He's got, again, about a 16-second lead over Matt Wagner. That battle for second, though, Steve, it's about 2 seconds for Matt. So if he looks in his mirror, he is going to see that number 64 of Andrew Wood. So Andrew's just got one lap car in between himself and Matt Wagner here, as we're very closely approaching this potential final pit stop of the race for these leaders. Probably in the next 2 laps, I would say that window will be open. But then the question is, of course, what will the strategy be? Maybe someone tries to short pit it a little bit or not. It's going to be very interesting to see. As you see, lap car giving plenty of room for Andrew there to take the preferred line through 3 and 4. Again, just the respect we see from these drivers is really nice to see.
So right now, Andrew Wood is on the black tires. Let's see what Matt's on. Matt is on the black tires. Yep.
And saying again, this battle with David and Nick still within about a half second. Anders, he's not letting Eric get away, I should say still within a second between the two of them as well. So we've got a great battle here for 4th and 5th, a battle between 9th and 10th as well, and soon going to be a battle with 2nd and 3rd. I have a feeling, as I said, we're going to jump back to this battle actually, because here again comes David Payton right on the rear wing of Nick DeGroot here as they're going to enter NASCAR 1 again as we are at 11 to go.
Very curious to see when Andrew Wood decides to pit compared to Matt Wagner, and whether they both decide to go with the red tires, and how different their pit stop times are.
Oh, and unfortunately a mistake for Eric Schaus. Well, to see what exactly happened, just overcooked it into the International Horseshoe, so that's going to say unfortunately got some damage for them. I think actually had to take a tow as well, so that's moved Anders now back into that top 9 positions there. So yeah, so just unfortunately another mistake for that 72 car, going to drop him back again down that running order. And the question is, I don't know if he has a fast repair or not remaining. That may be it for him. However, like you mentioned, that propels Anders now back into 9th. And we're going to keep an eye up front, though, because like you said, pit windows should be just about opening here. So I'm saying I think the next set of cars to hit pit road. Oh, close call there between Nick DeGroot there. Let's see if David Payne, he was able to get through as well. That was very close there with those 2 cars getting around. I think that was a damaged car of Joseph DeCiro. So I'll say this could be an opportunity for David, maybe try to do an undercut here, maybe pit a lap before Nick. But nope, they're gonna come in right together once again.
Yeah, I have a feeling that was a monkey see, monkey do thing there.
All right, so that's going to, now we'll jump back to our race leader here of Henry Bennett. I suspect Henry most likely in this time, but actually I'm going to jump back to 3rd position because Andrew Wood, he is there, Steve. He is 0.7 of a second off of Matt Wagner here as he gets back into NASCAR 1 as he's working some traffic here. And unfortunately, Rachel just gave us a heads up, no fast repairs remaining for Eric. That likely is his night over, unfortunately, in that 72 machine.
And David Payton, David almost lost it. Okay. He doesn't lose any time, thankfully, but man.
And again, both drivers staying on the alternate reds here as well. So, however, Steve, Henry Bennett, he's making fuel this run. He does not pit again here at 9 to go. So I almost think that would have been the right time to pit if you're that 007, because actually here comes Matt Wagner, Andrew Wood. They're going to come in right together here at 9 to go. So this will be their scheduled final stop for these two. As I think next we'll see Jeff Heisong. Haven't talked about Jeff lately. He's been in his own little bubble, unfortunately, Steve. However, he is sitting right now in the 4th position during the pit stop cycle, so we'll have to wait and see how that goes for him. And so we mentioned Henry Bennett right now. He's still working through the Daytona infield here. And yeah, so he's kind of caught traffic at the worst time for the leader here, where I feel like I think if he had pitted that last time by, I think he's still safe. He's not going to really lose the lead from this, but I think it is going to cost him a couple of seconds.
And it looks like we're going to have about as good a battle now between Matt Wagner and Andrew Wood as we've been watching with David Payton and Nick DeGroot.
Yeah, and actually Matt had a big moment there. Had to avoid, I believe, I'm trying to see what car that was that he had to get around there. I think it was a 60 car. I don't know if he may have merged too early to avoid the incident. Hopefully, if that's the case, hopefully they're able to clear that, because that was basically a way for him to avoid an incident there. As Jeff Heisong, he does hit pit road. And I'm going to watch Henry Bennett, because, yeah, here comes Henry. He's going to hit pit road here, coming to 8 to go. Again, should be a final schedule stop for our race leader in that 007. And so, yeah, so I'm going to look and see where Matt Wagner, Andrew Wood, it's about 1.5 seconds. So Matt was able to stretch himself out just a little bit ahead of Andrew here. Push to passes, Steve, they are even 3-3 between the two of them, so they both have the same number remaining. So they'll have to be very smart about when and where to use those those push to passes. And then same thing with Nick DeGroot, David Payton. Actually, as I say that, David Payton hits his push to pass right now, as that actually puts him on level with Nick DeGroot. Both of those drivers now having 7 push to passes remaining here with 8 laps to go.
Okay, and the good news is I don't think Matt got penalized for the pit exit. Uh-oh, he goes a little wide going into one.
Yeah, now he's got to try to find a way to get around the 83 of Jack Walls again. Just you got to try to pick and choose when to make those moves. And you see Jack gives the inside, so that's going to give Matt plenty of room to get outside. You see Andrew Wood locks him up a little bit as well, but he's able to clear the 83 as well. So this fight will continue here for the 2nd position. And then David Payton, Nick DeGroot, this fight continues for these two as well, 4th and 5th. As we mentioned, Jeff Heisong in the 6th position, kind of just in his own little bubble here. And then right now in the 7th spot, Logan Helton, a great recovery for him. That 63 car still holding on to 7th. Michael Spell sitting in the 8th spot. And then in 9th, not too far behind, closing the gap a little bit, Steve, is that 10 of Anders Arhus. I'm trying to see, I believe Michael and Anders both still have 1 stop to make here. I don't think they've made their final pit stop yet. So I'll say we'll have to see how that running order changes. And then we actually have a nice little battle here between Jim Brooks and Charles Teed. Right now, this would be a battle for the top 10 as well. We're going to go back to the 2nd place battle, though, Steve, because Andrew is there. He's going to use the draft here. No push to pass yet, so we'll say I think we're going to see Matt probably protect the inside, and then we're going to see that kind of that braking battle going into turn number 1 here. Oh, Andrew had the advantage for just a moment, but Matt was able to rotate the bottom so well there. He's going to hold on to that position. Now we're going to jump back to the next battle, because as they come through 3 and 4, Steve, it's Nick DeGroot, David Payton. David on the button here, Steve. He's going to try to complete this pass through NASCAR 1. We'll see if he can, or through the travel, I should say, entering NASCAR 1. He does. He clears. He jumps straight to the inside, as he's going to try to keep that 89 in his rearview mirrors as they hit turn number 1 here at 7 laps to go.
So we've got at least 2 really good battles going on. Matt Wagner's stretched it out just a teeny bit as they head towards the bus stop.
And Duty mentioned pit stops. Jim Brooks, Logan Helton, they are now in pits for their final scheduled stop. I believe Michael Spell, he's already made his as well, so I believe that's just about going to complete the cycle of stops. So I think that battle between Charles T. Jim Brooks a little bit for not in the case of for Jim, as he was a pit stop off cycle. Oh no, Steve, I think David Payton may have had a moment. Oh, he does. He loops it there in the exiting NASCAR 1. Let's take a look to see what happened to that number 38 car. I think maybe just caught a little bit too much curb there, Steve, for David Payton, and then I think maybe a little bit too much curb, and then just got on the throttle, and then unfortunately just that car just loops around. No damage, so he's going to be able to recover and get back going, but it's going to cost him a lot of track position to try to catch back up to Nick DeGroot, because that's grown now to about a 7-second gap between the two of them.
Well, that's a shame, because that was a really great battle between those guys. Sorry to see it end that way. But it's good for us because we don't have to be flipping back and forth between two great battles.
As you were saying that, I switched straight. Oh, got one spinning behind the Matt Wagner there. Trying to see who that was on the ticker. I think that was Logan Helton, the 63 car. Loops it around, taking out some cones for good measure. And he's going to come out right in front of the other Sour Patch car as well. But I don't think cost him any spots there, so he's going to hold on to that 7th position still. But we're going to jump back, like you said, to say, because this is definitely right now the closest battle on track is Matt Wagner and Andrew Wood. Battle for that 2nd and 3rd position here. And for those that are wondering, Henry Bennett still is in this race, and he's almost by a 20-second lead as he's crossed the line. He's got 5 laps to go in this one. But right now we're focusing on this one. I actually need to mention, Steve, Matt Wagner on the button. They're trying to build a little bit of a gap over that number 64 car. You see, even I think Matt trying to break the draft a little bit too. So I think Matt trying to just try to get himself out of that range of that 64 car. But now again, he's going to be at a 1 push to pass deficit, with 3 remaining for Andrew, 2 remaining now for that number 11 car of Matt Wagner.
He's going to have to use those judiciously, because what do we have, 5 laps to go?
Yeah, we are at 5 to go for these guys. So I'm keeping an eye on the intervals for some of the other drivers. David Payton still sitting at about a 7-second gap between them. I say Anders is about 5 seconds off of Logan Helton for 7th position. And then Charles Teed, Michael Spell, about a 7-second gap between them. So like I mentioned right now, this is by far the closest battle on track between these two here. And at this point, I say you honestly a roll of dice of which of these two is going to finish in front of one another.
I know if it was me and I'm in Matt Wagner's spot, I would wish I had 5 push to passes, because I would want to use 1 every lap until the end.
Yeah, and the question, of course, is where to use it. And I think right here is the best place to use it, Steve. If you can use that push to pass, I think it negates the draft. But like I said, I mean, the thing is he's going to have to be smart about when to use them. Because right now we're going to be coming around at 4 to go for Henry Bennett. So, yes, I mean, he's going to have to try to fight off, I think, Andrew for 2 more laps. And then I think that's the time to use it if he can keep that 64 car behind him. As, again, we're going to have another braking battle here back into turn number 1.
Yeah, but I'm sure Matt didn't use it that time because of the great run.
No, he was not on the button, but these two stayed side. Oh, almost contact between the two of them. At the moment, Andrew Wood gets that position back so as they go through the infield, through the International Horseshoe, and they're heading into the kink. But right now, at the moment, put that number 64 of Andrew Wood up into 2nd position here. So now if you're Matt, though, Steve, you got to stay on the back bumper or rear wing of that 64 car. Stay in his draft, because that's where you can bring the pressure right back onto that 64 car and try to do the same to him. But again, I think he's got to try to as best he can here. He needs to save those push to passes. However, Andrew gets a great exit out of NASCAR 1, so Matt's going to have to use all the draft he can here to keep up.
Did Andrew use any of his push to passes on that last lap?
He is on the button right now, Steve. He is trying to build that gap over the 11, so they're back on equal footing. Oh, Matt gets a little tight there for their bus stop. You could tell he had to roll out of it more than he wanted to. Oh no!
Oh boy!
I think that was the 60. I don't know if it was netcode or contact. We'll have to take a look at Andrew Wood's car. I believe his car looks to be okay, but you know that cost him a little bit of momentum there. That's going to really help Matt Wagner there to kind of close the gap back on Andrew. But that was a very, very close call. I'm glad that Andrew was able to get away with that. But you know that definitely probably got his heart in his throat there.
No doubt.
And for those wondering, yep, Henry Bennett, he's still up there. 20-second lead for him, no biggie. He's just on a cruise control drive, while I think also trying to set the fastest laps of the race as well. Say Nick DeGroot, David Payton, still up. It's about a 6-second gap now. David has closed the gap a little bit here, but I don't think it's going to be enough. And say David definitely burning through his push to passes in that 38 machine as well. So right now, though, we'll jump back to that Andrew Wood and Matt Wagner battle here, because it's, like I said, kind of the best battle on track. Apologies for fans of the other drivers, but it's hard to get away from these guys.
I guess we should probably every once in a while show Henry Bennett, right?
Yeah, I say again, if we could do the split screen, we could like kind of have a camera on Henry showing him like sipping some tea and say just enjoying life right now in that 007 car. My hope as well is that he can at least have an interview with us tonight, because he's had visitors over, so he hasn't been able to do post-race interviews. So I'm hoping we'll be able to have a chat with that 007, because we've missed out on a couple of podium interviews with him. So, however, Henry has crossed the line. We have 2 to go for him as this battle rages on. Matt Wagner on the button, Steve. That leaves him 1 remaining here, Steve, and that's going to give Andrew Wood that 1 to the advantage again. So it's these guys again. I think it's just going to be who has the run out of that bus stop coming to the checker. And I think what Andrew Wood's done here, he can now use these push to passes. I think the best time to use it out of the bus stop these next 2 laps.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm kind of surprised that Matt used it there.
I'm a little bit as well. I feel like he was close enough. I think the same thing. It may have been the time. It's like use it with the 2 to go. And say don't know what the gearing was like on these cars. Maybe a little bit. Maybe they kind of top out possibly. You saw a little bit of a puff of smoke from the entry there for Andrew, but it looks like he's able to manage that very nicely as they head back into the turn, heading into NASCAR 1 again. I think Matt right there got a pretty clean exit, but it looked like, I don't know, I think Andrew carried a lot of momentum there out of that turn.
Yeah, I think the only way that Matt's going to get by is if he can keep it close enough to be able to push the pass to actually try and pass, as opposed to just catch up.
Yep, and as we cross, you see Henry Bennett cross the line. He is on his final lap of the race. We're going to jump back, though, to the battle for second position. See if Matt Wagner is able to get any closer. Neither driver on the button, so that leaves the 64 with 2 remaining, Matt Wagner with 1 remaining. Again, this is definitely the closest battle on track. Matt trying to see if he can grab that second position back from Andrew Wood. They've had a great battle all night long as Henry Bennett continues to work his way through the infield for the final time tonight.
By the way, Gael, it's tea and crumpets.
Tea and crumpets. All right. Well, we'll ask him if he has any ready to celebrate once we get an interview with him, which I think Henry's too good at this point to have a commentator's curse in this last half lap. He's got nice clean track in front of him as Matt Wagner is closing that gap a little bit here. You'll see he's definitely keeping the pressure on. I think we're going to see Andrew Wood be using the button right here out of NASCAR 1 and then again out of the bus stop. But we're going to go back to Henry Bennett as he hits the bus stop for the final time. Andrew is on the button though, Steve, just to mention that, as well as Henry comes through the bus stop chicane for that final time. And now he's just got to get through NASCAR 3 and 4 to pick up the win. That gap between Matt and Andrew, about 0.4 of a second as they just now hitting the breaking point for the bus stop. And actually, I think Matt was just on the button there, Steve, so I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But here comes Henry Bennett across the line, going to get the win here tonight at the Daytona Road Course. And now we'll jump back to that fight for the second spot. And I'll say right now, Matt, again, about 0.6 off as they already are through the bus stop here. I think Andrew Wood, he's even got some draft to help him. Andrew Wood going to bring it home in the second position. And it's going to be Matt Wagner there bringing it home in the third spot. Then we'll jump a little further back here because I say we still got some drivers on the lead lap trying to finish this one up as well. And that's going to be that we talked about that battle. Nick DeGroot, David Payton, they had a great battle all race long. Unfortunately, a slight mistake by David put Nick in the catbird seat. He's just got to get through this bus stop here, and then he'll be able to bring it on home in that 4th position. And then same goes for David Payne as he's hitting the bus stop now for the final time to bring it home in the 5th spot. Just needs to keep it clean and tidy, and does.
And it looks like Jeff Hysong will bring it home 6th as the last car on the lead lap. Only 6 cars on the lead lap.
Yeah, well done for Jeff. Like I said, I feel like, unfortunately, we didn't talk about him nearly as much as we could have because he's had a great race. Nice and kind of just nice and quiet. I mean, and +9 for him. He's gained 9 spots all race long as he's going to pick up a little bit of a tow here, I believe, off of Charles T to finish this thing off. But we mentioned, say, Henry Bennett winning the race here tonight. And just definitely a very eventful one, Steve. A lot of stuff happening, but I'll say when it all came down to it, though, say Henry Bennett, a huge run for him tonight, able to get that big win.
Yeah, hell of a job. Not a single mistake the whole race. And I got to say, Andrew Wood, pretty much the same thing. Considering how far back he had to start to come all the way up to 2nd is damn impressive.
Yeah, exactly right. So before we get through the interviews, we'll go ahead and show our final results for tonight's event. And it's going to be... Let's go the correct way here, Steve. It's going to be Henry Bennett getting the win by about 19 seconds over Andrew Wood, just holding off Matt Wagner. Great battle between the two of them. And then Nick DeGroot getting the best of David Payton there as well. Great battle between those two as well. A lot of fun watching that battle there for 4th and 5th. Like you mentioned, Jeff Hysong, last car on the lead lap. And then great recoveries. Logan Helton, Anders Arhus, 7th and 8th. Michael Spell, a very, I think, really clean night for him. He keeps it in that 9th position right where he started. So hats off to Michael there. So definitely, I know road course is not his strong suit, but he definitely nailed it tonight. And you got Charles Teed bringing home a top 10, last car 1 lap down. And Jim Brooks there, unfortunately, caught up with an incident with Covey Moore. He finishes in 11th. Joseph DeCiro in 12th. And then, say, drivers, unfortunately, multiple laps down. Eric Schaus, Jack Walls, Gary Corley, and then drivers with some early retirements as well. You've got Joseph Morales there. James Ledford, Yari Brupacher with probably the craziest moment of the race where they decided to throw him up in the air and bounce him around like a pinball. Don't know why that happened, but unfortunately for Yari, it did. And then you got Covey Moore in 19th, Todd Merkel in 20th. Kurt Rose had a great run going before he had to retire early in the 21st position. And then Chris Jabot and Chris Matthews, unfortunately, 22nd and 23rd. And so now, Steve, we got some drivers to chat with. And we get to lead it off with one of your favorite drivers here. And that is going to be the number 11 of Matt Wagner. So we're going to bring Matt on in. And Matt, that was a very, very fun, but I'm sure tense battle between you and Andrew there on that last run. I mean, take us through just managing the push to passes and just trying to figure out when and where you had to try to position that car to hold on to that 2nd spot. But I mean, just great job tonight. I say one of the few that were able to keep that car in one piece. I think that's, first off, I think that's an accomplishment in itself. Definitely bit a lot of drivers, but yeah, take us through the battle and just, I mean, what did you have to deal with tonight during this race?
I was so bad in the bus stop. As you guys saw, I had to slow down the last corner. The arrow would really affect the way you turn into that corner, and I just, for some reason, I kept overdriving it. I thought I had 2 push to passes left, and I end up wasting one. So it's is what it is now. But I'll take 3rd. I'm pretty happy about that, incident free.
Yeah, definitely. After so many other people had trouble tonight, it was a lot more people having really big trouble than I thought was going to happen at this track. But I think, like you were saying, it's easy to overdrive these turns, especially the bus stop. And once you do that, it really bites you. So I would rather do what you did, slow down a little bit more and not mess it up.
That's all I was doing the whole race. I just wanted to survive. I mean, Henry is like freaking elite. Who's going to catch him? I mean, really. But Logan gave him a run for his money, but he ended up binning it in the bus stop, as we talked about. And I just steamboat treacherous place. And And Eric, he did the same thing, and I saw that, and it said, "Well, I better not do what they did." So it took me in a different perspective the whole race.
So, was there a point during the race where you, or at least near the end, where you thought, I wish I had saved more push to passes and maybe you shouldn't have used them earlier?
It's a good question. Um, Probably about three to go. I used one. I shouldn't have used it. I had three in the bank, and I said to myself, "I'm going to save them." And nope, I hit that dang button, of course, because of I had a slow car and he had draft, and uh, is what it is.
The button's just too tempting not to push, Steve. You see it, you see the numbers are like, oh, if I push it, I just get a little extra boost and I can maybe sneak away, maybe break that toe. It's just so tempting, and yeah, it's hard to resist the button.
Very hard. I did have a couple of new incidents. You probably guys did catch off the pit road, and one I overdrove going into the horseshoe. Almost got in the shouts and almost forgot to turn my brake bias down. So other than those two mistakes, actually the first one was not a mistake. Car clearly stopped coming out of the pits. So
Oh yeah, that was we did catch that, and we were first nervous that you might catch a penalty for maybe an unsafe pit exit, as we weren't sure where the official exit line was, but to be brand new tires, cold tires, getting out of the pits to sneak around that and be able to get through there cleanly. I mean, just great reactions there. As I'm sure we mentioned with some of the other drivers too, probably had one of those heart in your throat moments, because that was a very close call there.
I did get a penalty and it got reviewed. They took it away because I did not want to run in the back of the other car, and plus Andrew was right behind me too. So I felt like that was the right and made the right call for that. And me and Andrew had a hell of a battle at the end. That was fun. He made it fun toward the end, but Henry's in his own zip code. But congratulations to Henry. I'll take P3. We'll go on to the next race.
Yeah, definitely well earned, Matt. It was a lot of fun watching you tonight, I say. And we talked about track position being really crucial tonight. I say you and Henry obviously starting the top three and finishing there as well. So, say way to keep that car in one piece. Like I said, it was not easy for very many drivers tonight. But yeah, great job bringing it home tonight. And definitely though, before we let you go, though, definitely want to give you the floor though. Any thanks and shouts you'd like to give?
Well, I could thank HyperX, LMC Gear, Troy Lee Designs, of course, Area 51, who puts on the great show. I really enjoy this league. This is one of my fun leagues. I really do enjoy it every Tuesday nights. Guys, you have a great night. And Steve, meow meow.
Great night too. Great finish, and I'll give you a meow meow and a woof woof, I guess.
All right, man. Talk to you guys later.
See you, Matt.
Matt Wagner keeping you on your toes here tonight, Steve. But yeah, I mean that battle with him and Andrew Will is just that was top notch. It was so much fun watching those two go at it. So as I say, we got to get the other half of that interview here and bring in Andrew Wood. We talked about him being the ringer, Steve. And say he was 2 for 2 in the races he brought, and I don't know, man. Second place. I guess I'll let this one slide, Andrew.
I'm not beating Henry Bennett on a road course. It's just not going to happen. So, yeah, I got the best result I could.
You definitely put yourself behind the 8 ball by qualifying back where you did.
Yeah, I actually got disqualified from qualifying.
Yeah, so you weren't the only one either. We one of our other drivers, the 24 Chris Chabot, he mentioned in our chat that yeah, he had a DQ as well from, I think he spun out on his warm up laps. Unfortunately, that put him behind the 8 ball as well. So yeah, it sounds like the qualifying scrutiny unfortunately bit a handful of drivers here tonight.
Yeah, I was kind of just getting myself sorted, and I got the scrutiny flag, and yeah, I spun at the bus stop. I hit the curb the wrong way and backed it into the wall, and then I got disqualified. So that was not the way I really wanted to start the race, but kind of had to reset my goals from there and set my strategy accordingly.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
and sorry, go ahead, Steve.
you did a hell of a job driving up through the field.
Yeah, I mean, I got a little lucky on the first lap. We were kind of broken up on row 7 or wherever I was, so I was able to kind of sift my way carefully through the first few cars. I had a couple of cars I had to dodge that were off the track and such, but yeah, I got really lucky for sure. And I was just trying to be patient and not make my own. I had a couple of like mini spins and things like that where I had to catch the rear, but just kind of had to talk myself down a bit and say, if you have the pace, you can run consistent lap times. You'll get up there, somewhere in the top 5 eventually. So, yeah, that's what I work towards.
Yep, that, and don't make mistakes.
I made a couple of silly mistakes. I had a couple of half spins, especially on the turn that brings you back onto the oval again. Just trying to push it too much to get a bit too much speed. Eric Schaus had an unfortunate, or maybe it was Logan actually. Logan had an unfortunate spin in the bus stop. He was kind of way ahead of us, and he was setting himself up for a nice, solid finish there. But yeah, I saw him off in the grass, and I knew that something had gone wrong there. So my goal was just to get up to Matt and see what happens. I had pitted a lap earlier to try and get the better tire advantage, just hoping it would kind of hang on for the end of the stint. And I think it did, but then the lap traffic kind of played a factor in that last little bit there. So it made it kind of interesting.
Well, you guys gave us one of the best battles to watch the entire race, so I have to thank you for that.
In the back of my mind, I thought that when I was, kind of battling with him, that that you guys would kind of find us just trying to find like a podium battle kind of thing. So I made it my mark to be extra clean and extra competitive and try and really do some different stuff to make it a bit more fun for everyone to check out. I didn't really know if I had the advantage at any time, but yeah, I'm surprised when I actually had the outside pass done, and it was kind of sketchy a little bit, but that was actually a really great battle. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, you guys. Sorry, Steve. Yeah, you guys sending into turn 1 side by side multiple times there, each giving you both of you giving each other the room there to have the turn, the exit, and kind of battle out, see who got the kind of the throttle down best. I mean, that's probably one of the hardest turns to make those passes at, especially when you're side by side the whole turn. So, I mean, hats off to you, Matt. Like you said, you guys were able to race hard but race clean. It was definitely just an honor and a privilege for us to be able to watch that battle. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah, I was trying a whole bunch of different stuff. Like, do I really make a run from far back and try and send it, or do I just stay on his rear and try and get the speed right away? But on the outside, you just lose too much distance. The inside's always going to win out if you're on the outside, just based on the conditions we were in. So I had to really play. Like, he made me work for it, and that's really what it's all about, honestly. So, I didn't know if I was going to get the spot or not, and I was surprised when I did.
It was definitely a good pass.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like I said, just great job. Like I said, 12 spots to get up to second. I think you were one off the highest climber award for tonight, but I mean, to do what you did to get through some of the names to get to a Matt Wagner, I mean, just awesome job there. It was, like I said, it was a lot of fun to watch. Say you're doing well in the points. To say even with these kind of the partial schedule, you're kind of slowly but surely climbing your way up with these great results tonight. So if you find your way into the top 8, I'd say you're going to be hard pressed to maybe try to find some schedule availability for those final 4 races if this continues.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens, I guess. It's kind of an unknown for me right now. Yeah, I'll have to see what happens. But like I said, I have to apologize to Joseph Morales for a little bit for that incident there. I know it was kind of an internet thing, but I really tried to make my presence known up high, and I think it might have tripped him out a little bit because he was trying his best to get out of the way, and unfortunately, there was an incident there. And of course, that's my second race in a row now where I've had an incident with a car I was trying to lap. The other one being Kentucky with Jack Walls, and I feel really bad about that one too. I got to clean that up a little bit and try and make it a little more predictable for the guys that are doing their best to get out of the way. Yeah, so I apologize for that. I know he's very apologetic for his side of it, but it was partially my fault too. So there's no harm there. No hard feelings.
We watched that, and we actually couldn't tell if you guys had touched or if he had just lost it trying to get out of the way, because it was definitely net code.
Yeah,
But
that was a definite netcode incident. Like he was kind of trying to find a lane to move out of the way, and I was a little unsure of where he wanted to go, so I tried to make it known that I was going up high, and he could just kind of stay low. But I think the last second he kind of made the decision to go up high, also, which is probably the right thing for him to do for a faster car coming through. But it was unfortunate. I really. That's not an incident that I like to have. I ruined his race. I was fine. I had no damage on the car. I didn't feel anything in the wheel or anything like that. So it's unfortunate that he couldn't get the finish that he deserved there. Just trying to get out of the way for the faster cars that were coming through. So yeah, it's something that's a little sloppy and probably wasn't a good view for all the guys that were watching.
Yeah, I mean that's one of those things, and that was what I liked. I was looking in Discord already, seeing you guys hash it out between the two of you pretty much quickly and right away. So it's really cool to see that kind of that rapport between drivers. And I mean, and you're exactly right. It's one of those situations where you both are trying to do the right thing, and okay, I'm gonna go this way since that's where he is, and he's like, well, I need to give him the lower line. It's like when you go to the shopping center and you go the same way as the person. You're both trying to get out of each other's way, and so unfortunately that occasionally happens when you're going about 180 or so miles an hour with these IR18 Indy cars as well. So I say probably the little higher stakes there on that one, but like I said, it's unfortunate that happened, but yeah, it's really cool that you guys are able to kind of square it up right away there.
And I would like to say that Gael has the bumps and bruises from supermarket shopping to go along with it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's cool. It was an unfortunate incident for sure. Like there's no hard feelings there. It happened, and just glad that selfishly, I'm glad I had no damage from it, but it kind of ruined his race too. So it's unfortunate, but we'll learn from it and go forward.
I think it says a lot that you feel bad about that, and I would like to say, we've all been in situations like that where, if you're not like verbally communicating with each other, you're kind of mentally communicating, like, I think what he's going to do is this, and he's like, I think what I should do is this, and you just guess wrong. And I could see, you came off there, you were starting to go low, and then it looked like he was probably not high enough for you to pass him low, so then you decided to go high, and by then I guess it was too late and the net code happened. But I appreciate that you feel bad about that. I would say, just a one of those things that happens.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, I'm still sort of a newcomer to the league, so I'm not trying to make any sort of enemies right off the bat. Too, I want to try and get my way by some lapped cars quickly, but you got to do it in a way that's proper and clean. So.
Yeah, no, that's saying, and that's I think what a lot of drivers, let's say, that's the mindset we want to see a lot of drivers take. So I mean, hats off to you for that one. However, Andrew, before we let you go, I said obviously with the first and a second in your 3 races, let's say I know you've got some great sponsors on that car tonight. That one definitely wanted to give you the floor and give them some thanks.
Yeah, thanks to you guys for putting this on, the broadcast and such. It's a lot of fun to watch the next day for sure. Thanks to all the guys that put this league together. Like I said, the last couple of races, I'm having a really good time here, and it's provided some good racing thus far, so I'm happy to be around. I had to kind of race some guys I've never really raced around before tonight just to get by them and such. Like everyone was really nice and everyone was really respectful and clean. So, shout out to all the guys in this league. And yeah, it's my birthday today too. So it's a good finish for a podium. Thanks to all the Team Talent guys and PRL, which always backs me up in everything they do for their organization and such. So, yeah, we'll see where we go from here.
Well, happy birthday, and I think tonight's finish deserves an extra piece of cake.
Yeah, I'm going to meet some friends right now to have a couple of tall ones, so we'll have some fun.
Okay, excellent.
And we will spare you us singing happy birthday because I don't think anybody wants to deal with that. So we'll let you get out of here, Andrew. Enjoy time with your friends. Great job tonight in that second place finish. And yeah, definitely look forward to seeing you on track when you get the opportunity again, sir.
Yep, definitely. I'll see you guys soon.
All right, Steve, that is our second place finisher. That's 64 of Andrew Wood. And I say, unfortunately, we were mentioning hopefully be able to get a chance to chat with our race winner tonight in that 007 of Henry Bennett. However, say he still won't be able to do so. Again, huge time difference for Henry. I believe it's pretty much bright and shiny in the morning. I want to say they're about, what is it, about 6 hours, I want to say, ahead of you, Steve? Like 5-6 hours, something like that?
Yeah, I think it's 6 hours.
So yeah, so it's very early morning over there, and so unfortunately, so he doesn't want to wake up other people in the house, so he doesn't want to get himself in trouble. So I say he said he'll be back on Discord in a few weeks. So once he is back, we won't hear the end of it. So but yeah, just again, really want to congratulate though Henry, a well earned win, and say just in pretty dominant fashion, did a great job of fighting with Logan Helton there for a good chunk of that race, but then was able to keep that car clean and green to the end. And be able to grab that win tonight.
Yeah, just a flawless performance. And actually, I think it's 5 hours to England, but I have a friend in Germany, and I know it's 6 hours to there. But, I'm thinking that Henry may have had, so if he still has his company, that may have been extra motivation to go as fast as he could so that he didn't, leave them inconvenienced and waiting for him that long.
Yeah, exactly right. So on the plus side too, we both survived our weather before yours showed up, and mine already is passed. I think we're good to go there. So yeah, just Steve, as always, a pleasure to have you in the booth with me. It's so much fun to do these with you. I say we're slowly but surely we're closing in towards the end of the season here, so it's gonna be playoff time here in just a couple more races.
And as always, I enjoyed this very much, Gael. Despite being extremely tired and out of it tonight, I think I held on pretty good. And I would like to say that when we're done here, I'm going to go look up grocery cart insurance for you.
Yeah, keep me in the loop on that, because yeah, I think I'm going to be in need of it. But as always, Steve, thank you so much. For those that are watching, as always, also thank you so much for supporting the league here and the broadcast channel with Green White Checker TV, Area 51. Of course, definitely need to thank ESTV as well for partnering up with us, and of course, Dark Horse as well. So it's a great partnership between us and them. And then, yeah, looking forward to many more races with all of these partners that we've got. Just a great group of guys we've got. Saying again, look, if you watch the intro videos, watch the outro videos. Also a special offer that we have from LMC Gear sponsoring one of our own drivers. Unfortunately, wasn't able to make tonight's race though. Of Craig Forsyth offering a 10% off discount on their site with the Area 51 code. So definitely check that out during the outro as well, fellas. So yeah, for those who are watching, thank you so much. Hope you all have a wonderful evening. Or Henry, hope you have a good morning and a wonderful day. And until next time, have a wonderful night, everybody.
Night, everyone.